All right. Well, we are live with the post game Sunday night roundtable brought to you by Broadway Sports Media. You can check out all our great content at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. I am Jonathan Boren, joined by my cohort here of Ryan Watson and Robert Greenlaw. You can find me at JB on Broad, Ryan at Ryan on Broadway, and I have no idea what your
At
social
Rob
media
on Broadway.
at Rob on
Thank you,
Broadway.
Ryan.
Follow that up easily, but
Well, it's not like I hope this flex with this man or anything.
no, not at all. So interesting game tonight. I'm not sure if we saw anything entertaining, but for a team that came in here that frankly was picked by every single person to lose this game to the undisputed best team in the NFL, Buffalo Bills. Interesting reaction to how this game turned out as the Titans come out victorious 34-31, despite not being able to field anything other than an offensive guard at cornerback by the end of the game. Ryan, your thoughts?
First of all, Will, thank you for clarifying who you're calling bozos. Because, hey, man, give us a chance to get started before you call us idiots. Second of all, if you are watching from Twitter and you would like to participate in this party, please head on over to YouTube or Facebook because Twitter doesn't suck, but in this format it does because their chat is broken to all restream live streams. So make sure you head on over to YouTube or Facebook to come party with us. Tell us your thoughts of the game. Hopefully not as negative as it was during halftime. Not seeing anybody cuts because you can't afford to cut a corner now because you're down to one on the roster. Seems so. Yeah,
I mean, we're on the halftime show, obviously, and everybody was very much down on on Jackrabbit Jenkins because of one play that he gave up. And I get everybody is very in the moment because of the reaction to the last play where Cole Beasley is catching a touchdown there in the half. But ultimately, Jackrabbit was the most consistent corner you had, mostly because he actually finished the game.
Yep.
So it's hard to be cutting a guy right there. And Breon Borders had some bad plays, but considering what the position and what you're asking for him, he made some good plays and actually responded pretty well coming back in there. You saw he learned his lesson about getting his head around on the ball whenever Josh Allen was just throwing it deep on him. But Greenlaw, let's talk about just your overall thoughts on the game.
I mean, objectively, it was a very fun game to watch. Like, if I was a neutral, that would have been a really entertaining game to watch. There's 7 lead changes. They said that was the most in Monday Night Football history, or tied for the most in Monday Night Football history. So really just a good game. For the Titans, I mean, it's nice to win, but I think you got some injuries long-term that might really hurt this team.
That's a tomorrow problem. All right.
Yeah. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just saying, as exciting as it is to win that game and to show that you can beat what looked like an almost invincible Bills team, the coaching staff put together a good enough plan to slow them down enough on offense and score quite a few points.
Yeah, and you mentioned the defensive plan to be able to slow the Bills down. The offensive plan in the second half, the big long drive. I mean, those things to help defense get the rest they need to go out there and compete and try to keep things short, keep things in front, put the pressure on Allen when they could. And I'm just going to call it like it is. I may amend this later, but David Long seemed like he was all over the place today. Had a great game. Landry had a great game, despite what people are going to say about him in coverage and man-to-man on the goal line. He had a fantastic game as well. So when you have your players like that are playing above and beyond and really getting after it, Autry had a good game. So when you have that kind of stuff happen, good things can happen when you need the breaks, like the goal line stand at the end from Simmons, who played well also. Then that alleviates some of the concern with some of the corner stuff going on. Have to get healthy, have to figure some things out. But it's good to see the other players picking the rest of the defense up when it's needed.
It was nice to see them. Sorry, Born. It was nice to see them get pressure with 4. That wasn't happening a year ago, and they're getting it pretty consistently. Like, Allen didn't have all day in the pocket when they just rushed 4.
No, I think that's a great call out. I mean, we talked about what the Titans did last year, and it was a sense where they decided that they were going to drop people into coverage and think Josh Allen would take his chances. So shout out Coach's Corner, where we called that out, that they would probably replicate that this year, doing the similar thing. And they did for the most part. They were going to rush 4. And, Coach's Corner, if you're interested, we are live each Thursday at 8 p.m. Central. You can join in with some play breakdowns and as well as some other things.
If nothing else, you'll be entertained by my lack of technology understanding when I'm breaking down my play.
We have great t-shirts, which you can check out at shop@BroadwaySportsMedia.com, shop.BroadwaySportsMedia.com.
Yeah.
But look, this is a defense that has been Not well regarded this season, but I've been kind of the guy that's been sitting there standing and saying the defense has not played that bad. They continue to have these big plays they have given up, and I know they gave up 31 points in this game to possibly the best offense in the NFL, but they didn't allow that big play over the top the entire game. They had the one big PI call, but again, they kept the plays in front of them. This is an offense in today's NFL. You're going to give up points, but you want to minimize those opportunities. And I thought the defense did that very well.
So the defense in the first quarter, the two big wins outside of individual play and individual plays, the two big concept wins for the defense tonight was holding the Bills to 3 in the first quarter. And they had outscored opponents like 50 something to 3. I don't know what the exact whatever. So that adds to it, but it's only 3. There wasn't a 10 spot you gave them there. And then from there on in the second half, 11 points in the third quarter, 0 in the fourth. That is bowing up when it's needed and giving your offense a chance. And offense, luckily, in the second half came out to play. Tannehill, as bad as he looked in the first half and not very sharp, he found ways to find, and like I said, those intermediate passes to A.J. Brown over the middle and be able to get those things done and be efficient with his passes. And Nick Westbrook-Ikhine as well, utilizing him. It sucks to see Julio Jones go down because there's another injury we haven't even talked about and all that, to the offensive line, to everything. But it's nice to see your players stepping and making plays. But the defense, big shout out for holding to 0 points in the fourth quarter.
Without Farley, without Christian Fulton, without exactly. Chris Jackson. So you have 3 of your top 4 corners out and you held them to 0 points.
Right. It's impressive to say the least.
Yeah, and so as we kind of look and see what we talked about on the offense there, and you talked about Tannehill being a little more accurate there in the second half, and he's a guy that really did step up. He seemed to really find the patience and go through his reads. Thought he was rushing it a little bit in the first half, missed some open things. We talked about the interception that he threw down the field where he threw it inside to Julio Jones, which means he probably saw that sinking corner there. If you're going through your reads like he's supposed to as a quarterback, he should find his way to A.J. Brown, who would have been wide open because of that sinking corner. There was a couple of those instances, and he had an overthrow to Julio Jones there as well that probably would have walked in for a touchdown. That's a guy that I thought in the first half was having his worst half of the season as a quarterback and really stepped up. And for a team that has been questioned, can this team move forward without Derrick Henry? And look, it's hard to say they move forward without Derrick Henry with 3 touchdowns and another 140-plus yard game, but I thought Tannehill really got those clutch yards when he needed them.
So a big part of that, and a huge shout out, and the offensive lineman of the show is definitely going to call this out. Great pass protection from the offensive line, especially compared to what you have been seeing from this year. But really overall, other than I can think of maybe 2 plays where it wasn't perfect, but for the most part, Tannehill had a clean pocket to throw from. He had to get out moving a little bit, but that's okay. You're expected to do that as a quarterback who can be mobile like Tannehill can. And the offensive line held up. There was no those quick where he only had 3 seconds to react, 2 seconds to react, 2 steps to react, those kinds of things. So big shout out to the offensive line, not only in the run game to spring Derrick Henry for probably what is his most efficient game running the ball all season. I know that one play, 70-something yards will do that for you, but a lot of those plays, we talked about it during the game live, was that when the offensive line, now watch this in the future, when the offensive line and the Titans are really clicking a little bit, or they're about to start, is when Derrick Henry is hitting the line and he's falling forward for those 3 and 4 yard gains. When they're getting those kinds of runs, this offense is on schedule, on pace, and going to be doing some dangerous things, because now they're going to start opening up some stuff like you saw. So great resilience to the offensive line, sticking with it. Defense played great. I don't have a whole lot of complaints other than got to get healthy.
Yeah, and so as you kind of start to look forward and what this win can do for you, this is a team that I don't feel like has played a complete game this entire season. I don't think they've played a bad game this entire season. But, when you look at how this game was played, where there's still things to clean up, the biggest worry thing coming out of this is clearly the injuries. You lost some key players some of which were even backups to other players you had lost. When you talk about Caleb Farley going out and what looks like is going to be a long-term injury, when you see a guy getting carted off and pretty immediately being ruled out, that doesn't have great omens for things to going into the future. But you look at the reactions on the sideline, look at the reactions of the players on the field here. This is one of those wins that if they can overcome the injuries and find some solutions there, this is a team that now looks like they believe. They have now taken on the elite. And frankly, props to the Bills. The Bills have already proved they're one of the elite teams in the NFL. They went into Kansas City, and I don't care what the Chiefs are doing to beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. That is an elite team. So to go in there, they did that. The Bills have already proven it. The Titans just stepped up to the plate and did the same thing. So can the Titans overcome that? But I'm looking at Derrick Henry. He is fired up. I'm looking at Tannehill. I'm looking at Jeffrey Simmons. There's a lot of players out there that were really feeling this win, and this is a win that can carry you for a long ways. It's a long season, but this could be a real turning point, even for and I say turning point, that's light for a team that's 3-2, but it really could be a turning point for a team to go from good to great, just channeling the theme from 2 years ago for the Titans.
4-2 with the Jaguars
yeah,
winning, keeping the pace too as well. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, I think it was a big game for AJ Brown to get a little bit of his groove back. You know, he had struggled with drops this season, and this game was the first game where he's been, you know, completely healthy, and he showed out. So maybe this is a, you know, building block game for him to get back on track, and they're going to need him, especially without Julio for probably an extended period of time.
Yeah, and again, we get to the hamstrings with Julio Jones. He's having injuries there, and I saw a comment here from Facebook. I'm not going to try and pronounce your name because it's just way too long. I'm going to go with Alexander, which is I wish that Julio was more involved, but it was a good win. And ultimately, Julio, if he's healthy, if he's not more involved, that's the thing of this offense. If Julio is not involved, what you're hoping for is a big game from Henry and a big game from AJ Brown. When you have the three-headed monster, you're not expecting a big game from all three every single game. It's the option of having 2 of 3 and still being able to put up points and win games. So this is what you want. This is what you were hoping for all offseason whenever you look at what this Titans offense is doing. So not having a big game from Julio Jones isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, and I think what shouldn't be understood here is getting Armani Hooker back in time too. He played a heck of a game as well. Molden was able to chip in with 6 solo tackles, 9 total, with 1 tackle for loss. So you had people stepping up in the absence. And when you're talking about absence of people, as you were on offense, if Julio fades out, you're hoping for the big games from them. That's all you're asking for to be a competitive team. The elite teams find ways to win and find ways for people to step up. No excuses. Next man up. And I know that's like I said during halftime, that's a cliche, but you kind of have to expect that. I mean, there's a lot of other teams that deal with maybe not the same type of injuries, but I can think of that have dealt with similar injuries to this, to multiple positions, still find a way to win. And you got to feel good here coming off what the entire media, fans, everyone was in agreement. This was the best team in the NFL, and the Buffalo Bills, to come into your house when you were already injured. I saw predictions from Bills fans they were gonna come in and take our women, steal our barbecue because they don't have any good food in Buffalo, and they were gonna beat the Titans 42-3, and Derrick Henry was gonna get negative 70 yards. Well, I'm here to tell you, none of that happened. Obviously, Bills have to go now. They have to go back knowing with a loss to that shitty town they live in, and go home and have to go to work tomorrow knowing that their Bills just lost to the Tennessee Titans.
Can you imagine having to go back to that place after losing like that?
No, thank you.
I'm not sad. Here just downtrodden a city, although this one is clearly better because they went into vacation to it. I live in Nashville. I'm not looking to vacation to like Nebraska or something like that. I'm not sure anybody that would want to do that. You want to go to better cities, and they wanted to vacation here. So,
and I'm so glad that the Titans botched a punt fake on a forward pass so that now the Bills can see what an actual forward lateral looks like.
I'm not sure. Can somebody consult with Adam Schefter to see if with his own 2 eyes he was able to confirm whether or not that was forward? We only have science to back up.
How is he still going on about that? Literally every chance he gets, he's going on about how it was a forward lateral.
He's going on like how he was a 16-year-old Bills fan who wouldn't be biased at all in that situation.
Oh, absolutely not. The pom-poms there. We shouldn't allow anybody like that to be in the media. So I want to talk about, we kind of scraped over it, and because it just seems to be so routine at this point. And let's talk about Derrick Henry. Look, this is a man that fairly routine by his standards on some of these runs, but with the 76-yard run, and I saw some people out there, the clickbait artists, that want to say, well, if you took away the 76-yard run, he'd only have like 70 yards, which is 3.5 yards a carry. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, there are people in the Hall of Fame with 3.5 yards a carry, but also at the same time, he still did have a 76-yard run and 3 touchdowns to go on that. Rob Greenlaw,
Bob Law,
my man. Are we seeing a Hall of Fame career coming about? I don't even know what word I'm trying to say.
Unfolding.
Unfolding. right
Yeah,
before our
I think absolutely. I'm not even sure there's a debate anymore. Maybe like 2 years ago, but he's on pace to rush for 2,000 yards again. That's never been done. Even with a 17 game schedule, no one's going to be close to his numbers after following up a 2,000 yard season. So I think he's easily a Hall of Famer after this season, probably. He's just amazing. It's something to watch because it's kind of, I felt the same way with LSU in 2019. Ryan doesn't understand this because he has amazing teams every year with Alabama. But with LSU in 2019, I was watching that. I was like, I have to appreciate this because I'm never going to see it again. And that's what I feel like with Derrick Henry every week. You just got to appreciate it now because once it's gone, you're never going to see it again in your life.
I'm a Cubs fan. I get the once every 100 years thing that LSU goes through. It's okay. I get it.
Well,
no, it's special what Derrick Henry's doing. And there's something to say that people want to fire Keith Carter. There's something to be said about the offensive lines he's been putting together over these last 2 years. You can't, I know it's Derrick Henry, but someone's got the block for him. So some credit has to go there as well, especially with some of this piecemealing they're having to do. And you can say, oh, it's just easy for Derrick Henry. And I get it. He deserves 70% of the credit probably, but this offensive line's been doing wonders in the run game. As poor, I tweeted it at some point in time. It's nice to see, even with the struggles in pass pro this year, which weren't there tonight. It's nice to see that this offensive line, for the most part, still blocks their ass off in the run game and opens these holes, because I'm telling you, he runs forward for 4 yards, as I said earlier, once he gets contact, and he has the most yards than any other running back with his second after contact yards in the NFL.
Yeah.
But they're opening up the holes to give him his chances. So he has those one-on-ones, can take advantage of his freak abilities. So yes, that's good. Again, the offensive lineman in the room, sorry, shouting the offensive lineman out for the third time this post game. But yeah, Derrick Henry, Hall of Fame career. I think the last time I felt this kind of special about a running back, it was a shorter time period. You had no clue how short it was going to be. But Chris Johnson, when he was in his heyday, watching that, it's not even comparable to the type of running backs, because he's got the Chris Johnson speed and he's built like he is at 250 pounds. I mean, there's that 76-yard touchdown run. Every running backs are going to make that. It's going to be a 50-yard run. And they're getting hawked. He ran away and had 15 yards of separation between any other person that's secondary for the Bills. It's impressive.
Yeah. And he could have had another. I think he tried to murder, who was it, Micah Hyde in the middle of the field instead.
That was Poyer.
Yeah, Poyer.
Poyer, the dude played a pretty good game, but the man even just doing his job is in the unfortunate situation of being downhill of Derrick Henry at least 3 times. And I thought he played great. It's just, man, there's physics. At some point, it just plays out. And look, the thing that really says something about Derrick Henry is when you see the stat about Terrell Davis, a man that is in the Hall of Fame despite a shortened career due to injuries, and you look at what he did, and he is in the Hall of Fame because over a short period of time, he had some of the greatest stats. It's not so much the longevity, but is he the best player at his position in a period of time? Terrell Davis is that kind of guy. And then you look at over a 3-year season, a 3-year period of time, Derrick Henry is on pace right now to rush for 500 more yards than Terrell Davis did.
Jeez.
That in and of, I was letting it simmer in silence there, and you just couldn't. I should have muted you.
Good luck muting me.
Yeah,
I have
it's
the board.
fine. It's fine. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, you could have muted me too. Yeah, and so when you look at that, it's hard to argue that. I'm very much the skeptic. When you talk about the LeBron James, those kind of guys, when you're watching them, it's just, I tweeted it out tonight. Just appreciate greatness.
Yep.
And when you're watching him, it's hard to believe it, we can get skeptical because he's rushing against defenses that are built to stop the pass. I don't care. At this point. You can't prove anything against it because they're also stacking the box against him, and he continues to put up yards, put up touchdowns, put up points, and carry this team on his back. Derrick Henry, frankly, this is a lot for me to say. Derrick Henry's a Hall of Famer.
I see, not a lot to argue with there. If we could switch gears just real quick and talk about another monster, and someone said they didn't call his name a whole lot, but Jeffrey Simmons is a damn monster. And that 4th down stop, I just played on the highlights here on the TV here in the room, and just the ability for him basically to split a wedge block in between 2 offensive linemen who both had their hands on him, get his arm and stop the momentum of a fairly large quarterback in Allen, and just stuff him to make his legs skid out from underneath him and get him to the ground almost single-handedly I know it's the ball game right there, but Jeffrey Simmons is a damn monster. It's just, It needs to be said 400 more times. It's just truly impressive what he can do in single moments. And I hope that no one wants more out of him because I think he's doing a good job.
Well, when you look at Jeffrey Simmons, you also have to understand what he is. People always seem to compare people to Aaron Donald, and Aaron Donald is an anomaly. Frankly, if you look at him, he's an undersized defensive tackle. He's a guy that is just faster because of his size, but he's not small. He can make do with his strength and everything. But again, you're comparing somebody to a unicorn. If you took away Aaron Donald, who are you comparing Jeffrey Simmons to? It's one person. One person.
Well, exactly. It's kind of like if you compared Nick Chubb to Derrick Henry. Like Nick Chubb is a very good player, but he's not Derrick Henry. And people keep on trying to force, Jeffrey Simmons on Aaron Donald, who is another Hall of Famer. And it's just not fair. Aaron Donald is so special. Like you said, he's a unicorn. You're not going to see that again. So stop comparing him to him. He doesn't affect the game the same way.
Yeah, just draft big running backs in the second round because you can get Derrick Henry. Draft quarterbacks in the sixth round because you can get Tom Brady. Stop comparing people to unicorns. Look at the law of averages. You'll get these outliers here or there. I'm a big stats guy right here. And if you're just comparing because there's this one guy that did it, therefore it justifies everything, that doesn't make any sort of sense. So, look, Jeffrey Simmons, if you're comparing him to the Fletcher Coxes, those kind of guys out there, the man is doing his job. He's not going to be the 18 sacks kind of guy, but he's going to he's going to take away offensive linemen. He's going to open things up for Harold Landry. He's going to open things up for those other defensive tackles. So Jeffrey Simmons have a hell of a season. Anybody? Nothing? No follow-up.
No,
That's cool. That's fine.
It's hard to disagree there.
I literally just said, yes, I agree with both.
Just say yes. Yes. Okay. Yes. I'm glad everybody agrees with me. That's perfect. So we're going to move on to a topic that is near and dear to my co-host here, Ryan's heart, which is timeouts, which is mostly near and dear to him because I don't know how to lead into it. So Ryan.
Yeah, I just saw a lot of hatred online. The variable ended, I think, the first half with all three timeouts in his back pocket, and then he ended the game with all three timeouts in his back pocket. Look, I don't necessarily hate that he didn't use timeouts because I'm a big believer that if he's using his timeouts to try to stretch out the game, he's already conceding that the Bills will score. Now, you don't know that they're not going to kick the field goal. I know all that, but I think that anything you can do to lessen the incentivization for the Bills to try to score a touchdown or to get I screwed that completely up. Please, someone help me. Incentivize the Bills to not score. I mean, because it seemed like to me he forced them into trying to play for the field goal by letting the clock run and not wasting the timeouts. I know it's not a great look to lose that, and you want to give your team all the best chance, and all more time means the offense can get the ball back. I get all of that, but I think that that was kind of a smart-ish thing to do because you're not trying to give the Bills more chances in that situation with the offense that they have and put a little pressure on them to see what they're going to do. And of course, they did look like they were playing for the field goal that late, especially with the time ticking out. Because even if they get that quarterback sneak there, they call a timeout, they're probably going to be kicking it pretty soon anyway. More than likely. So I didn't hate it. Granted, it would have been nice to maybe use some of them at some point, not have all six taken over because they don't go over to Kansas City. But at the same time, I'm not as mad about it as I saw on social media.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really argue with the timeout usage right there. I get it. You're trying to get them. And I think mostly I can't argue with it because of the injuries they were dealing with right prior to it. You almost want a chance just to take that deep breath. But ultimately, in everything else created equal, yeah, if you have time, you're going for it. And I think if you're supposed to have this explosive offense, you should be doing it. And I think he should have to answer questions outside of this one circumstance because of the injuries, which is just, let's just get to halftime.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think this is an excuse, but I said it in the chat and I wasn't really joking. He trusts the defense, period. He's shown it with his actions in games like last year when he punted against the Ravens. He's done it time and time again. He trusts his defense to make a stop when it matters. So even if we don't think that's the right decision, that's the decision he's going to make every single time. Plus, I've heard that the timeouts count as coach of the year votes at the end of the year. So all your timeouts, you get to bank them and go for the coach of the year at the end.
I'm more pissed about the first half not using the timeouts to try to get 3 points.
Yeah. I agree with that. That was kind of one of those surrender index things with 40 seconds or whatever it was and 3 timeouts.
Yeah, not pissed, but I have a more big of a problem with the first half
Yep.
ones than I do the end of the game ones. But yeah, so I don't know what else we can talk about, Jonathan, but I know the Titans are sitting first place in the AFC South, tied for second.
Are you trying to still host for me right now?
Yes, I am. Tied for second in the AFC. You got to feel good as a Titans analyst, fan, anybody watching this team where they are, especially with how it started and the questions that they have.
You got to feel good, especially since they're going to fire the coaching staff any day now.
I mean, Jackrabbit Jenkins has been cut. I think we cut other people about midway through the third quarter. But I do see right here as we start to wrap up, of course, the national narrative right now is about everything the Bills did wrong. That's what it's going to be. You want to know why?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Titans lost to the Jets. And ultimately, this is a big win to get back in that national narrative conversation. But that loss did happen. And also, who gives a damn about the national narrative? Go out there and win games. My bigger concern outside of the national narrative is going to be the injuries. Is Taylor Lewan truly out for the year? Is Christian Fulton going to be able to bounce back? Farley looked like he's out for the year. Is he going to be able to bounce back? This is a team that has dealt with a lot of injuries, but did not deal with a lot of serious long-term injuries. That kind of caught up to them this week. And you almost kind of hope that it was something that they kind of had skated by. They got lucky a little bit that they had to just get through the rough part of their schedule here with some injuries. Instead, it just seemed like they're still injury plagued and they just got worse. How can they bounce back? Can they hold tight and keep moving forward? I don't know.
I wouldn't fire the whole coaching staff, Tyler. I thought Downing had probably his best half of the season, that second half calling offense. And I think Bowen, for the most part, played a great game. I think you can nitpick a couple plays here and there, but I think overall this was a very good game for the Titans coaching staff.
Tyler, if you have questions about the coaching staff, you can tune into the Coach's Corner, which is live every Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time. You can tune it in. We're going to give the coaching perspective there. We're going to break down plays because I frankly disagree with you adamantly. I don't know how we could actually say after beating possibly the best team in the NFL that we need to fire everyone. But that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. That's the whole nature of it. So we can tune into that discussion next time. So wrapping up, final thoughts for the night. Monday Night Football. Titans come up with the big win, 34-31 over the Buffalo Bills. Ryan, anything else?
Great spot to be. You got to be happy with the Titans, despite just got to have to, like you said, hope for those injuries not to be as bad as they look.
Rob?
Yeah, it's nice to clinch the AFC South in week 6.
I don't know why I am the way I am. That's what I was asked tonight when just trying to talk about a play, but that's what it comes back to. But what I know is that I was able to, that's fine, is that I did watch the Titans come out to a victory, 3-point victory over the Buffalo Bills. I appreciate everybody joining tonight. As always, you can check out our content at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. You can get sweet merchandise like the stuff I am wearing right now. This just really pops just right on screen right there with the Coach's Corner tee. We got other tees there at shop.BroadwaySportsMedia.com. You can find me at JB on Broad, my co-host Ryan at Ryan on Broadway, and I believe Rob, I think I got it this time, at Rob on Broadway. Is that correct?
You crushed it.
Perfect, and perfectly, as always, at Broadway TN. It's been fun tonight. It's been a long night. Let's all go to sleep, wake up, and
have fun going to work tomorrow.
Yeah, hope the injuries are not there tomorrow. So have a good night, everyone.